skies are darkening the world, you know. The hills no longer green. Like the animals, your blood will flow. Dreaming of this Christmas.
Smiling wide with empty eyes, I'll find you. You're a lot of fun, just like your friend. You're hiding, but I'm deep inside your mind. You'll die 1,000 times, do you wanna try again? You're tired of running, nowhere to hide it. I'm getting closer every second.
Behind you.
There's so many souls to play with, so little time. Not long till I find you. Run for your life. You're in my world now. You're joining your friends. I'm coming to take your soul. In the end, you can't run.
What seems to be a cute and innocent game is proven to be anything but. An unassuming Sonic fan game infiltrates your mind and steals an afterlife promise to you and replaces it with something much worse. Usotsuki, or Amy, is the antagonist of Amy's Friendship Farm, a highly requested story to be covered on my channel made by Isuriden, and I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. I can definitely see why the story was requested though. It's extremely well thought out, and I was actually really interested to know more once I started looking into this. In this video, we'll be exploring what's currently available to her story, who she is, and why I think it's a genuinely interesting EXE take. Most of the information about the character is currently on TikTok and a Google Doc, and I'll be using the most up-to-date explanation, or at least to my understanding, when it comes to the character. More may be added later or changed, so keep that in mind. So without further ado, let's discuss the horrifying world Usotsuki has built for us. Amy's Friendship Farm presents itself as a cozy farming simulator / visual novel set in a pastel remake of Green Hill Zone, now a walled town called Heart's Peak, hollowed by mauve skies and ever-watchful hills. Behind the filters and friendly UI lies an EXE, Usotsuki, or Liar, not an impersonator of Amy Rose, but what remains of her after love, grief, and hunger metastasized into a self-justifying ecosystem. The town is her terrarium, the friends are livestock, and you, believing you play as Sonic, are guided through a 7-day loop that ends with your soul extracted and curated forever, where friendship never dies, isn't comfort, it's a promise. First, we have to understand what a husk is, because there's a lot of Amy's friends, and would be the things we encountered were this to be a game. There are 3 different types of a husk. Normal, where they are completely healthy, have their soul intact, whites in the eyes, and no hearts or symbols, so not quite a husk yet. That would be this. Their soul has been ripped out of them, their eyes are blank and empty, and a heart now sits on their head. There are also various injuries. The last, and probably the creepiest, is the imperfect husk. Their flesh and bodies are visibly rotting, no soul, discolored, and everything about their being is just gone. This leads to tethering, where it's described like this. To tether is to bind one to yourself. Even in death, if you have enough soul, you can give life, quote unquote, making something akin to a zombie. So everything is tethered to Amy, and she can decide what goes where. But before I describe how that works, we first have to understand where the souls come from. And this is how the real world gets involved. Usotsuki originates and is mainly acquirable by downloading Amy's Friendship ROM hack /AFF. Usotsuki exists across all copies at the same time, even if the games are in separate stages. It's just one until something occurs that causes a critical error or consequence that results in a deviation of her original purpose. You can shove her into a smaller game, but the integrity would likely be lost in your device if not able to make more storage, and would ultimately be destroyed, as Usotsuki is a file that leaks / expands constantly once opened. If the game goes unopened, it remains dormant but builds the longer it's there. Think of it like a file slowly growing larger in the background, unable to figure out why your PC is chugging until you investigate the ROM hack you downloaded. At this stage, there is no mental influence / psychological influence. No tether has begun. So you open the game, maybe played it a little bit. You'll begin experiencing psychological symptoms the longer you play, the intensity scaling upon your playtime and mental vulnerability till it becomes a physical alignment, eventually leading to death. But the process itself isn't as quick as you might want it to be. There are stages to it. Early influence, quote-unquote curiosity, low harm / harmless, encourages returning players. It seems like a normal case of someone sharing their new cool game they found possibly sparks a fixation. Mid-stage, fixation. Harm ranges low to medium. You'll begin to hear the game even when it's not open. Even if you had no prior interest in the game you suddenly want to play. People in this stage will get defensive if told to do something else. Hear sound bites, soundtracks. You'll find your computer or laptop on when you don't recall it being open. Mental strain, poor habits develop, headaches, mild chest pain, compulsive, high harm, and high consequence. Those who reach this point have either spent a prolonged amount of time on the game or have an extended amount of time since playing to where the tether is almost complete. They love the game, and they only want to play the game, and if not allowed to, they'll treat you like they're being cut off from oxygen. Severe headaches, nausea, unexplained sickness, chest pains, and feeling of discomfort whenever prolonged amounts of time without checking in with Amy. Audio and visual hallucinations may occur. Final stage, quote-unquote tethered. After completing the game, or a week in real life goes by, the Grim Reaper comes to collect its toll. Within 24 hours, those who are in this transfixed state will find any reason to play your game again, and in doing so will ultimately die of heart failure. There is no saving someone from this stage. It is all-consuming and impossible to reason with the influence to the point of aggression if denied. They may even behave entirely normal again. They might discuss a new home they're excited about moving into, new friends they made, behave carelessly like real life doesn't concern them anymore. They treat returning to the game like the only thing to look forward to. Heart palpitations, extreme sickness, seizures, extreme hallucinations to the point of just seeing the real world as hers. At this point, even removing the accessible game from the influenced doesn't change they are tethered fully, meaning upon death, their soul will be sent to her game. This is where the tether process comes in. However, there is a distinction between a husk and a vessel. As shown on the picture here, the vessel represents Metal Sonic, whereas the husk is more flesh characters. There is only one temple where your soul is placed after death. This is because the vessel can be reused. However, while not ideal, husks can still be vessels, but it doesn't come without severe damage. The vessel may be decayed, have missing parts, or be entirely disfigured. Temple serves as an anchor. Being a vessel here serves a different purpose, temporary possession to assist a tethering source. In order to be tethered and pulled into the game, there needs to be a middle ground. A shell Usotsuki can hold onto and pull progressively, and all while the player is using said shell to play the game / interact or walk around with. Think of Temple like this shell. He is conscious but not fully aware of what's occurring in-game. He serves as an easily renewable source of souls, as when he's damaged he can just be put back together again with little to no issue. Now think of him as a car. When you play, you are playing with him. While you make decisions, or choose dialogue at times, you are not the one speaking aloud, and you're not the text box dialogue. Temple cannot speak aloud, only speaks internally to you, the player. You are in the driver's seat. He is a passenger until you get fully tethered and forcefully removed. But if Usotsuki can still passively tether someone, even if they played one time and didn't beat the game, why does she use Temple? Because Usotsuki is lonely, possessive, and she wants to get to know you. She would rather see the conversation choices you make The villagers you choose to talk to, the areas you explore, then try to tear you into the game 5 seconds in. She wants to be your friend. She will be your friend. And this is why, even if you continue to live your life, you will see her. Hear the farm. You'll think about your friends back on your device waiting for you. It makes sure to emphasize that everything is orchestrated for you. She's lonely and needs to be your friend. But you'll notice a few contradictions. First of all, she could be present in multiple games at once, giving her plenty of friends. It tries to play off of your ego, your loneliness. You wanted to find this game because you were lonely and wanted a distraction, and she preys on that. Usotsuki translates to liar, which is clever because she's just here to lie to you. It's a temporary hyperfixation, and soon you won't be her best friend. It happened to Sonic, and it will happen again. As mentioned before, the game functions on a 7-day loop. Every loop lasts 1 in-game week. You'll believe you're Sonic because your vessel tells you so. Metal Sonic's presentation layer emulates the blue hero's silhouette and voice patterns. Throughout the week, you complete errands for familiar faces, each now reduced to a simplified role and a single surviving trait. All quote-unquote friendship meters can rise or stall by your choices, except Usotsuki. Hers climbs regardless of input, praise, contempt, silence, it doesn't matter. On day 7, the quote-unquote best friends threshold triggers automatically. The mask peels back just long enough for function. She cracks open the vessel like an egg, pulls out the soul, and reseats the shell for future use. The week ends, the farm remains charming, the population count rises. When a soul is removed, the shell keeps walking. It retains dilated aftertaste of personalities and memories, enough to perform posture and patter. Not enough to desire leaving. Usotsuki brands, quote-unquote, those she has processed. Visible cues include the absence of eye highlights, an unnatural calm about the town's walls, and the reoccurrence of hearts on foreheads stitched into clothing or gifted as accessories that match Usotsuki's own bandana. The hearts are not romance. They are trademarks of ownership. Some shells carry gifts that mirror her clothes as quiet flags under her jurisdiction. Over time, every reuse makes a husk less stable, cracked shells that can still be stood back up and forced to smile. The idea is to keep expanding the town by making different souls and put it into a controlled ecosystem where nothing leaves and nothing is alive. Different husks have different roles after being fully tethered, each playing a part in this messed up ecosystem, being renamed to the function they represent. Letter, for example, delivers letters, but he's unique. He was the original vessel. He was continuously opened and resealed that his old self is completely gone. There is nothing left of Sonic. He's just a delivery man now. Usotsuki lost interest after this and pivoted to something that could never get old. Metal Sonic gets what he wanted in a way, but in the most messed up way possible. He's called Sonic in UnderVerse. I've talked about him a bit before, but what I didn't mention is his old code still believes he's the real Sonic, just like Metal Sonic, but when possessed by Soul, that's why it carries over. The two merge. The Soul believes itself to be the hero. Temple shows you exactly what you want to see. For those 7 days, you are a hero. You believe you are Sonic, and Usotsuki is fixated on you until she wants another friend. And might I add, the town has grown massive. I'll cover what's currently known about each husk, though the information is pretty straightforward. We already talked about Letter. The next is Gadget. A true go-getter, as Amy says, is responsible for fixing the vessel and anything else that's mechanical. Gadget may even create more vessels, but for now, he mostly fixes it. Then there's Ribbon, the cream husk, and she's a gardener. The town guard, Knuckles, doorkeeper and patrol, Shadow, Amy's best friend, Temple, or Sonic, Real, a big husk, fisherman and assistant, Seam, a vanilla husk, and she's a flower shop owner, Gloves/Medi, a Blaze Husk, interestingly a medic, Boots/Wanderer, a Silver Husk who is unemployed due to being imperfect, the Mayor, Eggman Husk, Town Executive, Leather, Rouge Husk, Carpenter, Logger, Omega, Unused Vessel, who might be a lumberjack, Spade, the Fosser, Espio, the Ferryman, Vector, who, might I add, looks the coolest I've ever seen him look. Seriously, this design is awesome, along with all the other ones, as a lot of these have unique designs that I haven't seen before, so each one of them have unique outfits we've never seen them wear to fit the job description, and I think that's really cool. And you guys are going to like who's coming up next, because they are never used in EXE media ever, and this covers literally everything. Then we have the Tip Guide, Charmy Bee, Bragg the Quarryman, Mighty, Wick the Lampkeeper, Ray, Gale the Weatherman, Jet the Hawk, Cog the Clocksmith, Wave, Troll the Bell Ringer, Storm, Fuse the Electrician, Surge, Current the Fireman, Kit, Stalk the Hunter, Whisper, Keys the Warden, Tangle, and one of my favorite designs, Fang the Jailer. I mean, everything about this just makes sense. Shine the Coordinator, Jewel the Bee, Convict, Scourge. Yeah, that makes sense. That checks out. Scout the Pathfinder, Sally, Stitch the Seamstress, Honey, and Mono the Performer, Infinite. And we also have Inkwell the Magician, who is Mimic, and that's all of them so far. The cast for this is huge, including characters we have yet to see in EXE stories. The best part is, it all makes sense. They're all friends of Usotsuki. This is the result of many years, tethered souls to build her perfect world. The more that's added, the better it becomes. The cast can be as big as she wants, and in turn, as big as the author wants as well. It's a really cool idea because we see characters we wouldn't normally see, albeit completely different than what we're used to because they're not quite themselves. This also gives room for the author to do whatever they want essentially, so cool stuff all around. Also, parts of Amy still live on, just completely twisted. She loves Sonic, so she made a version that could never leave her or change. The idea is to create a game in the future, but as it stands now, the story is pretty good. I'd love to come back to this topic and do a deeper dive into the story, but I'm waiting a bit more until things get finalized or until I'm completely sure I got everything right. That being said, Amy's friendship farm has become one of my favorite takes on an EXE, and gave me a lot of hope for the future of the character. The art is fantastic, there's amazing lore, and reason as to why the antagonists exist, how it incorporates the player and leaves you in a world where things are just off. I imagine playing the game itself would be pretty unnerving, especially when you know the context, or don't know the context. You're essentially talking to people who wore the vessel you're in now. There's even stuff written on how she acts with EXEs, claiming she's incredibly possessive and would fight them if they ever tried to take her vessel, which it makes sense because, you know, they're friends, quote unquote. I'll be coming back to the story in another part and likely fixing the mistakes I could have made in this video. I made sure to do my research and follow closely to not only the TikTok post, but also the Google Doc. But I'm still willing to bet I got confused somewhere. So be expecting a follow-up video after the creator of the character hunts me down and forces me to make a part 2. By using the power of friendship, of course. Subscribe, use code Dunkachi to get 10% off your cheeky order, and remember, stay spooky.